Okay, we are live now.
Great.
Okay, let me just share it on my page as well and my account.
This is all the technical side that needs.
Yeah, lots of things to do.
Great.
Okay, so hello everyone. How are you doing today?
We are so fine.
Me
Okay,
too.
hello Keith.
Hi. Hello,
Hi.
Nohan. How are you? Great to be
I'm
here.
fine,
Nice to
yeah. Yeah, we are super excited to have you today. Lots of people are excited, really, when they knew that I have Keith. Yeah, so this is really great. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. Very excited to be here.
Okay, and other people are coming.
Yeah.
So let's just wait for like 2 minutes and then we can start.
Sure, that's fine.
So it's the first time to attend. I got meeting Liza. Thank you, Ms. Nurhan and Dr. Case. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, Ahmed. It's a real pleasure
I
to
see
be
you
here.
are really excited, right?
Really. Thank you so much.
And I noticed you had your notebook, you've got your pencil ready to take notes.
Yes.
Good student.
Thank you.
Great. Where are you based? Are you also in Cairo or in a different place?
Yes, I live in Egypt. Yeah.
Right. In the capital?
No, Mansoura.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I'm also not in the capital, actually, Keith. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were in the capital. No.
No, I'm from Port
Okay.
Said. I don't know if you know it. Port Said in Arabic, Port Said.
Ah, right. I'm going to confess, I don't know Egypt very well. I've never been to Egypt, so I need to go.
Really? You have to.
No. Well, there's so much to see there. And now there's one more good reason because you're there.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. You have to come one day.
Yeah, I'd love to. Really like to go there.
Okay,
And now that I
so-
guess
Yeah, we
COVID
can start
restrictions
now.
have changed.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's easier to
Everything
travel
is
now.
changed now. You can travel everywhere.
Exactly. Go ahead.
Okay, so now let's start. Okay, so people are welcoming you.
Great.
You can just look at the chat box if you wish. Yeah, hi, Mr. Keith. Hope you're fine. I'm very interested in your videos. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay, Ahmed, thank you.
Wow, really? I can't believe that I meet you, Mr. Keith. People can't believe that. Guys, you have to believe he's there.
Absolutely. It's real.
Yeah, okay. So today, fortunately, we have Keith Michael O'Hare. And let's tell you about him. So Keith has been working in international education for over 20 years as a teacher trainer, and education manager. He has worked in the UK, France, Spain, China, Taiwan, and Malaysia. He now runs the Keith Speaking Academy, which is an online academy, helping students prepare for the IELTS speaking test. And also, another thing is he has DIPTISO. If you know what DIPTISO is, like an equivalent to Delta, if you know Delta. Do you know Delta?
Yes.
I'm just asking everybody here, yeah. Okay, yeah. People know that now. Okay, so sure. Okay, so first of all, I just want you to write where you are based or where you are from. Can just type in the chat box.
I'm going to write in as well because some people may not know.
Sure.
I actually live in Spain.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm in Port Said, Egypt. And actually, I'm from Port Said.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
If people are interested, I'm from Manchester.
Living in Sharm el-Sheikh. Okay. Mansoura, Manchester, UK. Okay.
As when?
Yeah, last time we had Eli. He's from I don't know, but he was in Edinburgh.
Yeah, he moves around a lot. He was in Wales when I
Yeah.
last spoke to him. Scotland,
Yeah,
Wales, England.
I
I think
guess
he's from
he's
England.
basically from Scotland. I don't remember really.
Right, right.
Okay, so Sharqiyya, Zagazig. So everybody here is from Egypt. Okay. You can write whatever you want. Just tell us where you are based, where you're from. Okay. So would you like to start now, Keith?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'd
sure.
like to.
Yes,
Yes.
please. Go ahead.
So, well, first of all, a big hello to all of you. It's a big pleasure to be here, and a very big thank you to Norhan for setting this up. A great opportunity to speak to all of you as students, and I think some of you may be teachers as well, and just share some ideas about learning English and IELTS speaking as well. My speciality is in IELTS speaking. That's the main focus of my work the last 5 years. I've been in English teaching for many years, but I decided to focus on IELTS more recently. So I'd like to talk about that. I'd like to talk about IELTS speaking, vocabulary and grammar. So how we learn vocabulary and how we use grammar when we're speaking English. So I'm going to talk and share some notes with you as I'm talking. So I'll just see if I can hopefully share this on the screen with you.
Yeah, you can share.
Right, okay, it works, great. I think it works. Just about. Right, excellent. Now then, actually, technical hitch, that's the wrong file. There's a different file. There's two.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so here also we have some people from Bangladesh, right?
Nice,
And
welcome, guys.
maybe Sudan or, yeah, I guess.
Right. Great, well, welcome everybody. If you're from Egypt, Bangladesh, Sudan, wherever you're from, great to be here. So I'm going to talk a bit about how we learn vocabulary and grammar for IELTS speaking. The first thing I wanted to say is about IELTS, because I know Norhan teaches IELTS as well, and a lot of students may be preparing or teaching for IELTS. With the IELTS speaking, there seems to be a kind of a mystery or a secret that there's a special way to succeed in the test and to get an IELTS 7 or 8. I would say, actually, there is no big secret, right? And there's no magic to getting a 7 or an 8 in IELTS. The most important thing you can do is build your overall spoken level of English. That really, it takes up about 80% of your success or your time. I would only focus about 20% of your time on exam technique, right? The tricks and the tips and the strategies. It's useful, but the biggest thing you should focus on, I think, is just learning to speak better English, which is good news in a way, because that is just an area that it's in some ways it's easier to focus on, although I know it takes a lot longer, right? It takes more time. So let me move into vocabulary first and talk a bit about vocabulary. As I go along, if you've got questions, feel free to ask questions or to put your hand up or come in the chat. And I'm sure Norhan will let me know as and when questions come up. Yeah. Okay. So with vocabulary, the first thing I'd say is vocabulary is a long-term investment, right? It's not something you can just learn in 2 weeks. I do see a lot of students saying, how do I get the Band 9 vocabulary so I can learn it for next week because my test is next week? The reality is it's a long-term investment, right? It's going to take a long time. You need to practice and have fun. I think it's really important because we know from research that the more stressed you are, the less learning you do. So the more relaxed you are, the more you enjoy learning, the more you're going to learn, the deeper the learning. So learn from things that you enjoy, right? I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that you could learn from. You could learn from novels if you like novels. I mean, I love crime novels, right? So I read a lot of crime novels not only in English, but in Spanish, because I like to practice Spanish. So I read crime novels in Spanish. If you like cookbooks or the news, or if you like films, whatever it is, use those things that you enjoy to learn from. That's important because I think you need to learn vocabulary from context. I think one of the things you should not do is have long lists of vocabulary that you just pick up from somebody and try and learn all the words. Much better if you've got a context like a film or a video and you're making a list of vocabulary, and then you can learn from your own list because the context is there. So learning from context, right, I think is really important. Learning vocabulary from context. And also, if possible, learn from listening. And I say that for IELTS speaking. If you learn your language from listening, you know that the language is spoken language. Sometimes it's confusing because people learn English from reading, and that's good, but you're not sure sometimes if the words can be used in spoken English, or is it academic formal English. So when you learn from listening, then you know that it's spoken English, right? So reading is great. Of course, it's a great thing to do to boost your language, but to help your speaking in particular, learning from listening is good. Different resources I've just shared. I can copy these into the chat box. I mean, these are some resources you may want to check out. For example, ESL Coolips, to get resources for listening. I can just share this with you. I think I can, hopefully. This is a website that I've recommended a lot to students. They have an amazing array of podcasts on English conversations, practical English expressions, real talk. There's the simplified speech. So it gives really simple language in easy language, and all about different topics, right? Getting ready for an international move. So these are resources you could be looking at for listening, right? To do your listening practice. Another one that I'm a big fan of is the BBC Learning English. You may be familiar with that, but there's lots of, they've got courses here, they've got vocabulary, and it all comes in context. They've got lots of news areas and much more. There's podcasts as well, again, to practice your listening and speaking skills.
It's my favorite, really. I like it so much.
Have you used this before, Nohan?
Yeah, sure, BBC, yeah. And I also recommend it for my students as well.
Excellent, yeah. I think it's good because it can be difficult sometimes to find, reliable sources that students can trust and that they know it's natural English, correct English, and good. So it's good to find those sources. And I think, the BBC, I think they do some great stuff generally for English learning. Okay, great. So coming back, where was I? Over here. So talking about learning vocabulary, something that's important when you're learning vocabulary, I think, is to understand that when you see a word, that doesn't mean you have learnt a word. So just seeing a word does not equal learning a word. And I think people get confused because they see a word, they write it down, they go, right, I know that word now, but often you don't. Here's an example, right? Let's imagine there's a class, Keith's lesson, Monday's lesson, and I teach the students to be stuck in traffic. So I take this expression, to be stuck in traffic, and explain that it means, well, you can't move your vehicle because other vehicles are not moving. Student says, great. Tuesday's lesson, one of the students comes late, and I say, why are you late? And they say, I was stuck in the traffics. And the teacher goes, boom. But this is good, right? But it tells you very clearly that just because the student or the teacher has taught the word doesn't mean the student knows the word, right? The problem here, the mistake the students made, well, maybe you guys can tell me, what's the mistake? What's the confusion the students made?
Okay, so they can type in the chat box, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yes, please do.
Yeah, tell me, what's
Everyone.
the kind of the grammar mistake that the student has made?
So I'm waiting for you. If you know the mistake, you can just type in the chat box.
Give them a few seconds. It's always good to have some
Yeah.
water when you're waiting.
So somebody says it's uncountable.
Fantastic. Who was
Yeah.
that? Brilliant.
So here.
So here, Ahmed,
Yeah.
yeah, it's uncountable. Exactly. Perfect. So traffic, right, is uncountable. So it's important that the teacher makes that clear and that the student learns that it's uncountable, right? So it should be, of course, should be traffics. I was stuck in the traffics. That should be taken out. And also you wouldn't use the because it's uncountable. So there's no S because you can't count. You can't say one traffic, two traffics. No. So that's the problem. Now, the problem here really, why is the student making the mistake? The student is not stupid, right? The student is very, very clever because the student, first of all, is trying to practice the new language. Brilliant. That's great. Some of the problems are, first of all, the student will forget, right? You forget words that you learn. So solution, review vocabulary within 24 hours. Again, we know from research, within 24 hours, if you don't review vocabulary, if you wait for 2 days, you forget 60, 70% of it, right? It's a huge amount in just 2 days. So review within 24 hours. The other problem is that the student has only seen the vocabulary once. Again, research tells us that we must or we need to see vocabulary in 3 or 4 different contexts to really learn it and to hardwire the vocabulary into your head. So it's not the student's fault, right? The student only saw one example in Monday's lesson. So as students, we need to look for different contexts. As teachers, we need to give more context. The other problem is the student only used the vocabulary, right? Only seen and only used the vocabulary once. Again, we know that you need to practice it in 3 or 4 different contexts before it becomes hardwired and starts to pass to your long-term memory. So the solution, keep practicing. Practice it in 3 or 4 different contexts to really learn the vocabulary, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, sure, yeah. Actually, I guess this is something called, we have to learn the vocabulary like incrementally, right? That it doesn't happen at once, right? I can't just look at the word and then I say, yeah, I memorized the word and now I can use it. It happens incrementally.
Exactly. And so don't get frustrated. You know, if as a student you think, oh my God, I learned that last week and now I forgot it. Don't get frustrated because it just means you need to practice it more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So that's one thing around vocabulary. Let's look at learning more deeply, right? Learning vocabulary. And the kind of, if you like, a process. Some of this is it may be very obvious, but some of it may be less clear or obvious. So let's take an example, right? I'm talking about, first of all, taking notes. I think it's hugely important to, when you discover vocabulary or notice vocabulary, to make a note, to write it down. As Ahmed had his pen and his paper, he's ready to make notes. Making a note of things really, really helps you to to remember it. And also then you have it to review within 24 hours, right?
Yes.
When you take a note, I would suggest 4 things. Note the meaning, obviously. You're like, come on, Keith, duh, of course, the meaning. But also notice or note the grammar of the word, collocations, and phrases, or if you like, examples. So the meaning, I've got a word here, reputation. Can anybody give me a definition or the meaning of reputation in the chat box?
Okay.
It's a tough
So
one.
please just type in English, no Arabic, please. Okay, so they say fame.
Fame. You could write Arabic if you want. I won't understand.
Yeah, I can translate.
Yes. Fame is similar, yes.
But can it be a synonym?
Not a perfect synonym, because fame has different meanings,
Yeah.
right? Fame is your status of being a celebrity or a famous person. Reputation, anybody can have a reputation. You don't need to be famous to have a reputation.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
So somebody says it's what's known about someone.
Nice. What's known about someone. So yes, what's known about somebody, that's kind of part of it, but does that mean that we know their name and we know where they live?
Yeah.
Or is
I
it
think,
more? Yeah.
I think I heard more about this reputation of this person. So it's a good person. It has a good reputation.
Has a good reputation.
Yes.
Right. Very good. So that's kind of what we know about maybe their behavior, right? What they do.
Behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good person. He's a good person.
Yeah, he's a good person, right?
Yeah, he's a good person.
Yeah.
So they do good things, right? Could we also have somebody who has a bad reputation?
Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So people can have a bad reputation or a good reputation, and you're right, it's what we know about their behavior, if you like. Okay.
Yeah.
The actual definition from the dictionary is quite difficult, but a widespread belief that someone or something has a particular characteristic. I think what you've said here, what we know about someone,
Yes,
their behavior is easier, right? So
yeah, it's much easier.
Yeah, be careful with dictionary definitions. They're very, very, very good. But if it's difficult to understand, use your own words, because then when you review, you'll know what you're saying, right?
yeah.
Right.
It's a good
So
definition, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Good, excellent. So it can be good, it can be bad, right? As we've mentioned. Now, when I talk about the grammar of a vocabulary, so there are different things. One thing I'm talking about, is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it an adverb? Is it an adjective? So the word form, that's kind of part of the grammar of the word. What is it? Is it a noun? Again, maybe you can type in the chat. Is it NV? Is it adjective or adverb?
Okay, so what do you think? You can type in the chat box. Noun. They say noun.
God, these guys are good.
I think adjective too.
Adjective too. Could you give me an example?
Yeah, for example, he is a good repetition. I describe this man here about his repetition. Here, repetition is an adjective. Maybe, I don't know.
Do you think the reputation is the
wrong.
adjective, or is the good the adjective? Do you think good is the adjective or reputation is the adjective?
good.
Right. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good is the adjective, right? It's good or it's bad. That's your adjective. Here, the noun is reputation. It's a noun. Oops.
Yeah.
I can't see, it's too dark in my room. Right, reputation is the noun. It's interesting. I mean, there is an adjective. If somebody has or something has a good reputation, you can say it's very reputable. Reputable would be the adjective, right?
Thank you. Yes.
No problem at all. Thank you for helping everybody with our learning. That's great. So we've got the meaning, we've got the word form. We say it's a noun, right? The grammar is also about how the word works in a sentence, right? Often with prepositions. So reputation, we would say, he has, I'm going to turn the light on, I can't see. Right. He has a reputation for doing something. So the grammar here is that we use for plus ing, right? Although we're looking at vocabulary, reputation, there is a grammatical element, right? We don't say he has a reputation of, no, he has a reputation for being kind. Norhan has a reputation for being a great teacher, for example.
Thank you.
Right? But you can also say she has a reputation as a as a good teacher, for example, as a something. So we can also use reputation with as. And this is what I call the grammar of the vocabulary. You'll find it in dictionaries with the word. You'll find it when you look at the word in a sentence and you go, ah, that's interesting. Reputation for or reputation as. And then make a note of that because it's important when you use it correctly, right? So that's what I call the grammar. The collocations are the 2 or 3 words that go together with that word, right? Ahmed gave us a great example earlier, right? A good reputation, that's a collocation. Or a bad reputation, that's a collocation. So when you learn a word, don't just learn reputation, learn something reputation, a bad reputation, a good reputation. Learn the collocations. And also because that's going to help your fluency, right? Because when you memorize the collocation, you can say, oh, she has a good reputation, instead of saying she has a good reputation, right? There's a big difference in fluency if you're using collocations. Where can you find out about collocations? On my favorite website, Norhan, I don't know if you know this one, but this is a collocation dictionary. It's online, it's free, it's fantastic. It's Osdic.
Yeah, I know about it.
You know that one, right?
Yeah, I know.
And it's well worth using. It doesn't cover all of the words, but it does include a lot. And I'll just show you on here.
I also like to check corpus sometimes,
Yes,
but of course
corpus
it's
is
much harder, yeah.
the corpus is good for teachers, I think, because it gives you a
Yeah,
much
for
wider
teachers.
and in-depth. This one's quite simple, but you know, suddenly you've got considerable reputation. There you've got good reputation, well earned, awesome. It goes on and on, right? But it's the reputation as and reputation for. Those are the 2 that I picked up and wrote down. So it gives you a nice, well, lots of collocations you can use. Okay. Has anybody used this before? Give me a quick yes or no in the chat if you have.
Okay, I would say yes.
No.
Right.
No.
There's a few no's.
Yeah.
That's fine. Right. Let me come back. Okay, so taking notes, right? Moving on from taking notes. Second thing I would say is juggle. And juggle is the name I give it. Juggle is where you throw 2 or 3 things, right? In the air and try and balance them. So juggle is where I think it's a really good idea when you learn a vocabulary, a piece of vocabulary, or a word or a phrase, make a sentence in the present tense and then make a sentence in the past tense and say them out loud, right? If we had, for example, the last one, she has a good reputation as a teacher. So we've practiced that. I wonder, would anybody in the Zoom like to come and say this sentence? Would they like to read this sentence? Anybody like to try?
If you would
Asma.
like, please go. Yeah.
Yeah, she has a good reputation as a teacher.
Fantastic. Now, Asma, Kamal, can you put
Yes.
it in the past? Put it in the past tense.
She had a good reputation as a teacher.
And now the future tense.
She will have a good reputation as a teacher.
Right. Fantastic. Brilliant. Lovely English, Asma. Really, really nice. Great.
Yeah, she is going to have a good reputation as a teacher. Thank you.
Thank you
Perfect.
so much. Well done.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So here we're just practicing. There's 2 examples. So here what Asma has shown is that if reputation were a new word for her, by practicing it in context, in different tenses, she's building up a fluency and a confidence when she's speaking, and able to memorize better the word, right? So present tense, past tense, you can move the future tense or present perfect, whatever you like, just make different sentences with that word. Okay, that's juggling. Let us move on from taking notes and juggling, practicing. I'm going to talk a little bit about kinds of vocabulary for IELTS speaking. So a lot of students, I think, are aware of idioms and phrasal verbs. Idioms can also be idiomatic expressions. So idioms are often quite complete. Idiomatic expressions may include phrasal verbs, right? So idiomatic expressions is a bigger umbrella. It includes your idioms and your phrasal verbs, some phrasal verbs. I think one of the key things is just use a few and use them naturally in the IELTS speaking test. Some students try a bit too hard to use too many and they're not sure how to use them. And so they make too many mistakes and it has a negative impact on them, right? But you can use some. I wonder if anybody knows, for example, in order to say I'm happy, are there any idioms you can use to say I'm happy?
I'm over the moon.
Wow, nice. Yeah, I'm over the moon. Yes. Any others?
I'm thrilled to bits.
Nice.
Cloud 9.
Brilliant. Say that one again. I'm
Cloud 9.
right. That's really good. Thank you so much. Now, I'm cloud 9. I'm going to give you a clue. There's a word missing here because it's not that you are the cloud. But it's...
on cloud 9.
Yeah, I said on. I said on.
Oh, thank you so much. I didn't hear it.
Yeah, it's okay.
Perfect. That's still fine. Great. So here we've got 3 idioms, idiomatic expressions that you could use, right, to say I'm happy. So idioms are useful, but don't use too many and try and use them naturally as well. Okay. The same, I guess, with phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs, I'm sure you're aware of phrasal verbs, right? I mean, this is where you have a verb like to put, and then you add a preposition or an adverbial particle, and it changes the meaning. For For example, to put out, to put out the rubbish is a phrasal verb. It's a literal meaning. You put the rubbish out, or you put out the rubbish. You could use it idiomatically. It really put me out, right? Which means I was put out. It's not it put me out. I was put out. Meaning that it doesn't mean that somebody took you outside. It means that you felt disappointed with something. I was put out by the decision. I was disappointed. But when you've got a verb and a preposition, it's a phrasal verb. Some of them are literal, and some of them can be idiomatic, right? It depends. I'll tell you why they're useful, because they're much, much more common in spoken English than in written English. They do exist in written English, but it's much more natural to use them speaking. And in English, we use them an awful lot when we're speaking. So it's worth spending time working on phrasal verbs, right? Another quick example is, you may say to start a hobby is absolutely fine, but you could also say to take up a hobby. And that would just give it slightly more natural feeling of spoken English, to take up a hobby, to start a hobby. Okay. Right. So idioms and phrasal verbs, two areas, important areas to look at. The biggest mistake students make, I think, with vocabulary is that very often students try to use a vocabulary that is above their level, that is too high, and they're not comfortable with. And this goes back to practice. If you're not comfortable with a new word you're learning, don't use it in the test. Use it in your practice, because then you'll get better. But in the test, I would only use vocabulary you're comfortable with, that is at your level. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay. Great. Now, I've got some quick tricks for the IELTS speaking test. I'm just wondering, how many people are preparing for the IELTS speaking? Or
Yeah,
the
we
IELTS?
have some. I have some of my students here.
Some of
Maybe
them
like 10 or so.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So these are more about, right, Maruf, you're preparing for the IELTS test? Right. Yes. Okay. Fantastic. Good luck.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Right. Brilliant. Good.
Ahmad, you're also preparing?
Another
Yes.
plan to
Yeah, okay. Good luck.
prepare.
Okay. So these, I guess, are just some quick tricks for the IELTS speaking test. Okay. In part 1, I would say KISS. Norhan, you know this, right? KISS. Do you know this?
Not sure. It's not the verb kiss, right? This is something different.
No, don't kiss the examiner. That's not going to help you. No, this is keep it simple. Stupid.
Yeah.
So the full expression is kiss, keep it simple, stupid. So when you hear this at work quite a lot sometimes, you know, if you're doing something and you're overcomplicating it and people just say, kiss, keep it simple, stupid. Stupid is an insult, but it's not, I'm not using it as an insult, right? So keep it simple. That's the thing. In part 1 of the test, at the very beginning of part 1, keep it really simple, because the first minute is really just warming up. It's getting used to the examiner. It's getting used to being in the room you're in and just settling down, getting used to the voice. So don't try and give really complex answers at the very beginning. Just relax, keep it simple. Using adjectives. I mean, this is so simple, and I guess it's obvious, but it really can make a difference to your score, because I think when candidates are nervous, they often forget the adjectives, they forget the adverbs, and they just use very simple language, but maybe too simple. So you may get, for me, I may say at the beginning, the examiner asks where you live or where are you from. I live in a town in Spain. It's a nice place. I moved there 5 years ago, actually. What adjectives could I use here? Again, any ideas? What could I use here?
So I can use like an alternative for the word nice.
Right? Such
I
as?
can use a less common word.
Yep. Yep,
Yeah, it can be
absolutely.
like, yeah, I can say magnificent. What else? Mesmerizing.
Yeah, magnificent.
Magnificent. Yes, magnificent.
Gorgeous, maybe. I live in a gorgeous place.
Gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous place. It's a magnificent place. Just one of those. Yeah, exactly. Nice. So you could
Wonderful.
change. Say again.
Wonderful. Yes, wonderful.
Wonderful. Yes, nice.
Wonderful, stunning, comfortable, fantastic, magnificent.
Thrilling.
Yeah.
Yes.
All of those. Great. Fantastic. Wonderful place. Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. How could we describe the town?
Yeah. In terms of sightseeing,
Mhm.
in terms of area,
In terms of sightseeing,
yes. In terms of areas,
in terms of areas, right. So in terms of sightseeing, we could say I live in a, you could say I live in a touristic town, right?
yes.
Touristic town. In terms of area, I live in a northern town, we could say. A northern town in terms of area. Exactly, great. So you could talk about in terms of tourism or location, where it is in the area. So adding simple adjectives can really help just improve the language that you're giving, right? Likewise with adverbs, right? Same thing with adverbs. Let's imagine, I'll give you an example here. Oh, we've got it here, part 2. In a part 2 talk, you may say, well, I got up late and went to work. Simple. Adverbs, what could we say to describe how you got up or went to work?
Can we add something to late? Like quite late, very late.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yes. Nice. Great. Any other ideas? How would you go to work? In what way would you go if you got up late?
Okay.
Happily?
Late.
Sorry,
I
say
got to
again?
work quickly by bus.
I went to work, I got it quite there. I went to work by bus,
Yes.
right? Yep, you could use an adverb of mode at the end. Absolutely, yes. The one I was thinking of, that I was thinking when I get up late, I went reluctantly to work. Like I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay in bed, okay? Or I went sleepily to work or slowly to work. So there are different adverbs we can use to add to the verbs as we're speaking. So adjectives and adverbs are very simple and quick ways to boost your language, right, in the IELTS speaking. I think it's important to mix simple and advanced vocabulary. Again, don't be obsessed with advanced vocabulary. Not everything has to be advanced. You can use simple and advanced. When I speak naturally, I don't always use advanced vocabulary. Of course, I use a mixture of simple words and advanced words. Similar with synonyms, right? You can use synonyms. You can use simple ones. If you feel comfortable, you can use more complex ones. There is an interesting thing in spoken English that when we speak in English, right, we often repeat things twice. It's different from writing. I know when you're writing, we're very precise and you write very clearly your idea because it's written. But when we speak, the words disappear. So it's very natural to repeat things twice. And this is where you can use synonyms, right? For example, I admire my dad. I mean, I really look up to him, right? Because he's so honest. That would be a very natural thing to say when we're speaking. And yet we're using a synonym to repeat a similar thing, but with different words. It's natural English. It's a great way of speaking and developing your language as you speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Great. Okay. So I've talked a lot here about vocabulary. I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about using grammar. And then maybe we can look at some questions at the end, Norhan, if there are any questions that come up. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So again, with grammar, I'm just going to share a few ideas with IELTS speaking. Similar to vocabulary, when we speak in English, we do use a mix of simple and advanced grammar, excuse me, not vocabulary. You want to use simple tenses and complex tenses. You don't always want to be using advanced or complex grammar. You'll notice in the band descriptors, they talk about complex structures and they talk about mistakes. You need to do both simple and complex. Let me share with you. For those of you who are, again, doing IELTS, you'll probably be familiar with this, but I'll just share this with you. This is the band descriptors. If you look at the third column down here, at a band, let's say a band 6. A band 6 says uses a mix of simple and complex structures. So you're going to be using both of those, but at a band 6, if you have limited flexibility, you'll get a band 6. If you make frequent mistakes, you're at a band 6. If you can make more error-free sentences, you get a band 7. And complex structures, here you need to use more structures with some flexibility. But again, you don't have to be perfect and no mistakes. You can still make mistakes and get a band 7. But it is a combination of both simple and complex structures that you're going to be using. And again, I guess keeping the idea of KISS, keep things simple for yourself as well, is a good idea. Okay. The other things. With grammar, I would say speak it out and write it out. And I'm thinking just here for speaking skills, and especially if you're preparing for IELTS speaking, when you're learning some grammatical point, speak it out. I mean, you may read it out, but then you may juggle where you're not reading, but you're speaking in the present, in the past, or the future, but you're speaking it out to get that practice. It's good then to also write out, if you've made a phrase, write it out as well to help you review it. But I would say your focus would be on speaking it out. And be careful that you're not only reading aloud, because reading aloud helps a bit, but not enough. You need to be speaking out from memory as well, okay? And try as much as when you're practicing, try and make your grammar automatic. So the idea of practicing different tenses, practicing with different contexts to help you automate the grammar. And in IELTS speaking, do focus on the simple stuff. It's amazing the number of mistakes when you listen to candidates making mistakes. The vast majority are very simple mistakes, but they hit the examiner like a slap in the face, and it brings your score down, even the simple stuff. So things like the present simple S, right, in the third person. He goes to work. The mistake of saying he go to work is extremely common, and it's because normally candidates are nervous or their pronunciation is not right. but it's a really important mistake. So it's really important to focus on the simple mistakes. The same in the past tense, right? He visited my home yesterday. And again, candidates may say that because they're nervous or because they forget or they're speaking too quickly. And instead of he visited my home. So really focus on the simple stuff because that's where the majority of mistakes are made in the IELTS speaking. Okay, so that's an important thing. That's it. Those are the main things I'm going to say about grammar. I guess I'm going to give my conclusion, and I am thinking mainly for for students who are preparing for IELTS. Use vocabulary and grammar that you're comfortable with. So it's at your level or maybe just a bit above. But if you're band 5, don't be learning C2, band 7 vocabulary, right? Stay at your level or just above. Make notes when you study. You can make notes on pen and paper. You can make notes on an audio file. I do that on my phone sometimes with Spanish. Practice lots. And if you can get feedback, I mean, the kind of sessions I think that Norhan does where you're able to speak out and somebody can give you feedback. It doesn't have to be a teacher. It can be a speaking partner, it can be a friend, another student, just saying, do you notice that's not right? Or did you notice you could say this? And helping each other to get that feedback. If you are on your own, record yourself and try and notice where you can improve. And most of all, enjoy your study, because I think when you're enjoying your study and you're learning, you're going to learn a lot better than when you're not. So that's my motto at the end. Enjoy your study.
Okay, thank you so much, Keith, for that. It was an interesting session, really. And I have a question for you.
Yes.
So what about band 9? How to get band 9 in IELTS speaking? Is it that easy?
It's not that easy, no.
Yeah.
It's not easy because band 9 really is native speaker level or C2 above proficient level. I think that the challenge is that when you're going from the lower bands, it's quicker to move up the scale. There's the kind of the learning curve. And as you get to the higher bands, you need to put in more time to make a little bit of progress. I think just immerse yourself as much as possible in the language. Identify your mistakes if you've got fossilized mistakes, and then prepare yourself psychologically for the test. What you don't want is to be so nervous that you make silly mistakes that you wouldn't normally make. But Norhan, you must be a band 9, surely. I think you would be up at that level.
Really? Okay.
From what I've heard, yes. I mean, I've not tested you, have I? But I think you're up there.
Oh, really? Thank you so much. Okay, so I have to work hard because I guess for me speaking, yeah, is fine, but also writing. Actually, last time I asked also Eli about that. He said I have never seen anybody who got band 9 in writing. Is that really true? Is it that hard in writing more than speaking?
It's interesting. Yes, writing is harder to get a band 9. I would agree with Eli. I have seen 1 or 2. But wow. I've seen a native speaker who basically didn't get a band 9 on writing, but they did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It also
everything
with
else.
Us in Arabic. Yeah, because we are not professional in our language. For example, I'm an English teacher, so I know everything but grammar and everything. But in Arabic, I'm not that proficient.
Yeah. And I guess that's where the 20% technique comes in. With writing, technique is important. I'm sure Eli has told you. Yeah.
Okay, so now we can listen to your questions if you have. If you want to turn your cameras, turn your mics on, it's fine.
Sure.
If you want to type your question in the chat box, it's totally fine. So let's see.
I think Maruf has his hand up.
Yeah, sure. Maruf, you can go ahead.
Okay, so electricity has gone. So this is the problem. My question is that is it possible to get band 8 in speaking, and
Yes.
what kind of activity should I follow? And another question is that my writing side is so much weak. Even though I am improving, but my problem is that I couldn't make sentence. So what kind of activity should I do?
Right. Well, I think in order to get a band 9, the first thing I would say is make sure you're already at band 7. And for some students they know they're at band 6, don't try and get a band 8. Focus on the next step, right? If you're at band 7 and trying to get to band 8, the activities you can do, gosh, again, immerse yourself as much as possible in English. So you're thinking it, seeing it, hearing it all the time. You need to practice speaking as much as you can. As you're learning maybe a different lesson or different topic, and you're picking out vocabulary, phrasal verbs, or idioms, as I said, make a note and make use of the system of practicing them, as I mentioned today. So you're practicing them as much as possible in different contexts. It's all in the practice. And if you can practice with different people, I think that helps, because different people will give you different feedback. You want to push yourself out of your comfort zone. If you're just practicing on your own at home all the time, you're going to be a bit too comfortable. And I think you would need to push your comfort zone and try and chat with other people if possible.
Okay,
and be patient. It takes time.
My another question before sit for IELTS, if I do any kind of mock test for any kind of with any kind of IELTS center, so if I get band 6 or 7 for sit for IELTS, is it possible to get band better than more? Is it possible?
If you're testing at band 6, you're saying, is it possible to get a band higher?
No. My question, if I do, I mean, if I sit for any mock test before sit for IELTS,
Yeah.
so if I get 6 band after sit for IELTS, is it possible if I practice better than before?
So he means with practice, can he get a higher band?
Right. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes. But with practice and time. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. It just needs more practice. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
Maruf,
any other?
thank you.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay, Aula.
How I can improve myself in grammar and phonology.
Right. In grammar and phonology.
Yes.
Right. Well, I think that the different things you can do, one of the things I would suggest is, depending on your level, is work with a specific grammar reference book. In fact, it depends how you study. There are grammar reference books and exercise books where you can practice the grammar that you're learning. But I would try and identify the grammar that you're struggling with or that you don't yet know, and then work on that area. So rather than doing a complete grammar course where you're probably reviewing stuff you know, is just identify the stuff that you don't yet know through a grammar reference book and work on those particular areas. And I think it's kind of focusing on one area rather than reviewing everything. I'm a big fan of working with grammar books. I don't know if I have them here. I mean, this is a big book, right? But it depends if you're a student or a teacher. But if you're a teacher, then it's a very, very useful book. But there are other books that are much thinner and have review exercises as well that you can use.
what do you think about in-use series? Grammar in use.
Yeah, absolutely. The Grammar in Use series, I think, are fantastic. Very good. I mean, the advanced, the intermediate, the advanced are very, very good. Extremely useful. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Ola, so does that answer your question?
Thank you. I get it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, welcome. So what about Suhair? Yeah, Suhair, you have a question?
Hello, Mr. Han.
Hello,
Hi.
dear. Yeah.
I don't have any question. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Han, for this amazing session.
You're welcome,
Really, I
dear.
can't believe that I meet Mr. Keith.
Really?
Thank you for all your videos on YouTube. I try to develop myself in English. I know my English isn't very good, but I learn a lot from you. Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you for the comment. And your English is absolutely great. It's fine. It's really good.
Thank you.
It's very,
Thank
very
you.
clear.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Ahmed and Nadi, you have a question?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Nurhan, and thank you, Mr. Kayes. My question is, I speak well and I listen well and I speak with native speaker every day. So my problem is maybe don't speak fluently, speak slowly to understand the questions, and I respond on all this question. Yeah. So what should I do to get a high band in speaking? Maybe eight band. Not 6 band. Yeah. Because when we travel to abroad, I think they need 7, maybe 8, not
Right.
under that. Yeah.
Right.
Tell me more. What should I do?
Very, very interesting. So when you talk about fluency and improving your fluency, just be careful that fluency is not the same as speed, right? So if you speak more slowly, that's not a big problem. If you speak very slowly, it's a problem. But if you're speaking a little slowly, I speak quite slowly. You'll notice I speak quite slowly compared to some other people who are. So fluency is not speed. The thing with fluency is to be careful of your hesitation. The problem is when you start going, that's the problem. But you can speak more slowly. That's fine. In fact, in the IELTS test, you should try and control your speed. Don't try and speak as fast as the examiner, because that often happens that the examiner speaks quickly, right? They say, well, tell me about the time. Did you enjoy like doing that? And then the candidate goes, oh, and they try and speak that same speed and they can't. And the candidate really has to stop and go, well, I think, in my opinion, and you speak at your natural speed. I think also for you, if you're going abroad and you need a 7 maybe in IELTS or above, do work on all your skill sets. So don't just focus on fluency, because your fluency, your grammar, vocabulary, your pronunciation are all connected. Make sure you're working on all 4 parts and not just one area, so that you're able to get that score in all areas. So it's no good if you're very fluent, but you're making lots of grammar mistakes. So just be careful that you're paying attention to all 4 parts.
Yeah, so nice. Thank you. It's a good advice. Thank you, Mr. Nurhan. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thanks for the question.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ahmed. So we have Hannah Sabri. You have a question?
Hello. Hello,
Hi.
everyone.
Yeah.
I'd like to welcome Keith. I'm a big fan of him. And I'd like to thank you, Nurhan, for this amazing session as well. Of course, I'd like to tell you that I have a problem. Some teachers told me that I have a problem in connected speech features when I apply them when I speak. So I'd like your advice on this point. And also, like, I have a problem in generating ideas sometimes. So sometimes I feel like my brain gets blank and I lose my train of thought. But I learn and I study a lot. I never stop studying, and I never stop. I also make a good content in English, but sometimes I feel like I lose the ideas, okay, or the flow of ideas. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Hannah, thank you so much for that question. That's really, I think it's a very common situation. You mentioned two things, right? You mentioned the connected speech. So connected speech is a fairly important feature, one of the pronunciation features that examiners are looking for. You have to show an ability to do some connected speech. That doesn't mean that you must always use connected speech, because as native speakers, we don't always connect speech, right? Sometimes I'll say get out, and sometimes I'll say get out, right? Sometimes I'll connect, sometimes I don't. What's important in the test is that you show that you can connect sometimes. So just listening to you, I heard you doing some connected speech, and I heard you other areas where you didn't connect. So I know that you can connect your speech. So I wouldn't put too much importance on that. I don't think that's a big issue for your pronunciation. Okay. That's the first thing. The second one about ideas, gosh, generating ideas or losing your train of thought or drawing a blank, as you said. It happens so often to so many candidates. On the one hand, one important thing is to do your research, do your preparation. So make sure that you've got ideas or you've seen ideas, reading blogs or newspapers or listening to podcasts, to make sure you're prepared. But then in the test, if you can't get the idea, there are different things to do. I mean, one thing is to actually speak what you're thinking, right? What you don't want to do is go quiet, right? Just don't stop speaking. Don't go, oh, I've got no idea. Just think aloud. I mean, say, oh gosh, my mind's gone blank. Just give me a moment. So we're talking about climate change. Okay, solutions. Let me see. Okay, one solution could be, and use that thinking aloud to help you get back on track, right? Don't sit there in silence, because you'll get nervous and it'll get worse. So try and think aloud as you're speaking. So preparation and this kind of technique, if you like, in the test. Does that help?
I have another problem in this point, especially that I never stop speaking, by the way, but sometimes I say irrelevant things that I never myself, what I said, it's not relevant to the topic. So this is another problem when I speak. So then I get the idea, then get back to the track and so on. So maybe it's a kind of lack of concentration sometimes, or I'm not focused, or I don't focus in this point. I know the problem here.
Do you do the same in Arabic?
Sometimes, sometimes, it's maybe my nature.
So it's probably your personality. It's probably just the way that you are. But that's fine. I think it's better to be speaking more than not speaking enough. If you sense you're going off track, just keep an eye on the examiner, because the examiner will give you a cue that if they're looking frustrated or confused, or they're going to keep interrupting you, then you'll get a sense that, okay, this is irrelevant. I need to get back on track. So you can probably take a cue from the examiner. But yeah, just try and control yourself and focus.
Yeah, I guess so. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, you're
very
welcome.
much. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Hannah. So we also have Muhammad and Keith. I also want to say something that we have lots of great teachers, English teachers, and also some Delta candidates. Some of them already have passed the exam, Delta Module 1, and others are doing so this December maybe or next June. So let's go to Muhammad. Muhammad Motar, you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me, Nurhan?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Sorry for not making it from the beginning, and I don't believe that I'm gonna talk with Keith. Actually,
Here you are.
Yeah,
He's
how are you
there.
doing? I want to take the IELTS very soon, and I'm swinging between the B2 and the C1 level. I'm one of those teachers that Nurhan was talking about. I'm a
Yeah.
CELTA
He's Delta
holder
Module 1 holder.
and a Delta Module 1. Yeah. As you can notice, you'll feel that I'm kind of have a British accent that happened during the Corona time. I immersed myself in English and watching English series, especially the British one. That was an advice from a friend of mine. That if I wanna learn the true language or the real language, it's from the series, the drama type, you know.
It's a good advice.
So yeah, I'm greedy to score high, like 8.5. If I can score 9, it's speaking. But you know, I doubt the level from time to time. I don't know why. So would you encourage me to go for it? And what is your advice?
Absolutely. So you're at times you're doubting yourself whether you've got the ability to get the score you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there are two things, and one is you mentioned you're a B2 C1. If you've done a test and you know you're at that level, then set your expectation at just the level above. So if you're a B2 C1, set your expectation at kind of C1 or just above C1. Don't expect to get a 9 because the gap will be too big and you'll feel bad. But if you're looking to go for, you said an 8 possibly. I mean, I don't know exactly your level, but from a C1 to an 8, yes, it's possible. The IELTS test is a huge mindset test. It really is. I mean, so many candidates who are band 7 don't get it because they're not prepared mentally. And a large part of that is believing in yourself, in your ability. If you're confident you can do it and you've got the level, then you really need to take that with you and to feel that before the test, when you're in the test, so that you're confident when you're there. It is a mindset is really, really important. So build that confidence and go for it. I would absolutely say go for it, but have an expectation that's realistic.
Of course. And how can I be sure of my level? You said I should take a test.
Do a mock test. Yeah, do a mock test. So either you can do an online mock test. There are certain online websites that do mock tests. The one I know is maybe it's called, I can put it in the, I can show you, Preptical.
Yeah, sure.
You know Preptical. Okay, these guys do mock tests of all the 4 skills, but including the spoken skill. I'll put this in the chat for you. It's called Preptical. The other way is to go on a platform like italki or Preply and look for a teacher who is an IELTS teacher. Book just one class, and before the class say, I want to do a mock test and I want your feedback. So the teacher says, okay, we'll do an hour class. I'll give you a mock test. If they're an IELTS teacher, they should have a mock test and give you feedback. So you can do that on, I think italki are good. I think Preply might have IELTS trainers as well. Cambly is another one. But Cambly, I don't think you can pay by the hour. I think Cambly you have to buy a subscription, but italki you can pay by the hour.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Your English is great. I love it.
Cheers.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, so let's say that we also have mock tests in my course, IELTS Speaking. We also do mock tests for our students. Okay, we have a question here. We have Mariam, right? Mariam Mahmoud, you have a question?
Actually, I cannot believe that I'm here right now talking.
People don't believe.
You have to believe. And I want to thank you so much. Thank you, Sibillion, for Nurhan for this chance, and thank you, Mr. Keith.
My pleasure.
It was like a captivating session, and I'm really taken back by this. And I've been following you for 4 years, and I really want to know. Yeah, I want to say that I really love the way you teach and the positive and the funny vibes that you charted in your videos, your sessions, and thank you so much for this. I have a little bit question. I just work around the clock to improve my English and got pronunciation, vocabs, idioms, and so on. But when I got or forced to be in a real conversation, I feel like I tried to rack my brain, but it ends up like going blank, and I finally forced to use my run-of-the-mill language because I feel like I'm running of ideas, and everything new that I got, I cannot use it. I don't know why this happened with me.
Mariam, it happens to you and to a lot of people. It happens to me in other languages as well. You know, I speak Spanish, and then I study Spanish and I practice, and then when I go into a conversation, I end up speaking the same old words I always use, and I go, what's happening? It's a common thing. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think what happens is we create a stress cycle that we want to speak more beautiful, complex language. We try and do that, it doesn't quite work, and then we feel bad, and this cycle of pressure goes on. I would accept that in your conversations, there are moments when you speak simple language, the same language as usual, and there will be moments when you use more complex language, because it will come. If you're studying it and reviewing it, the opportunity will come up to use it. And it doesn't, I think the problem is we often study an idiom or a vocabulary and then expect to use it in the next conversation, but it's not relevant to the conversation. I find a useful technique is when I'm in a conversation with somebody, in my case in Spanish, and I hear an interesting idiom or vocabulary that sounds curious, I repeat it and I repeat it in the conversation. So the person says, you know, oh, I drew a blank. And I go, oh, you drew a blank. That's interesting. Why did you draw a blank? And I repeat it myself, and it just helps me absorb it in that moment. Anyway, that's it, Miriam. Hope that helps a bit.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
So actually, we have lots of questions, so I'm not sure if you have time. Let's just
yeah, sure. I can stay a bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because really people are super enthusiastic and they want to ask you lots of questions.
Yes.
So let's go to Mona Ahmed. Mona?
So hello.
Hello, Mona.
First of all, I'd like to thank you so much. So my question is about how can I improve the listening skill? Because I practice on listening day by day, but sometimes when I listen to movies, especially American movies, I found myself lack the ability to understand well. So how can I improve this skill?
Okay. At the moment, Mona, how do you practice your listening?
I listen to podcasts and movies day by day.
Right. Okay, that's great. There are two kinds of listening practice that you need to be doing, really, to improve your listening skill. There's, and the teachers here, I think, will know this, is extensive listening and intensive listening. So your extensive listening is you're listening to a podcast for 30 minutes and you're listening to the language and you're getting the gist and the idea, and it's great. You should also be doing some intensive listening, and that can be taking like maybe 30 seconds or a minute from a podcast or a film and listening to it in detail and then analyzing what it was. A very good exercise, it's the exercise as old as the hills, but it's really good in teaching and learning, is the dictation. So when you're listening to something for 30 seconds, you write down what you hear. So you listen and write it down. If you need to, pause, then play and write it down. And then if you can, you compare what you'd listened to what you've written down. So if the thing you're listening to, if you can get the tape script or the audio, then that helps. It's easy with YouTube, TED Talks, because they tend to have transcripts or translate or audio captions. But that intensive listening is helping you identify the connection between the words and the sound, and to help you hear abbreviations, contractions, connected speech, ellipsis, all of the things where the spoken word changes compared to the written word. And that's where listening is really hard. And the intensive listening will help you identify what the contraction, like I would, I'd, what it sounds like really in context. If you listen to somebody speak and saying, I would go with you if I could, they'd say, I'd go with you if I could. I'd go. And the I would becomes I'd go, I'd go, I'd go. And you hear that and you think, what's that? But it's I would go. But when you start to connect the words written with the sounds, I'd go, then you start improving your listening skills. So make sure you're doing intensive and extensive listening.
Yeah, thanks a million.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you. So we have Muhammad Ali. Muhammad, you have a question?
Yeah, sure. Hello, first, I'm really happy to see you here, Mr. Keith.
Hi,
and
nice to be here.
Yeah, nice to see you. My question is like, it's two questions in fact. One of them, or the first one, how can I move on from B2 to C1 or higher than that? That's the first one. And the second, when I come to talk in many topics, I feel like I'm a little bit like suffering from lacking of vocab in any topic in generally. So how can I get it, like vocabulary, and how I can use it in a good way? That's it. Thanks for that.
Right, Muhammad Ali, I think that's three questions you had there. Okay.
3.
So your first question, how do you move from a B2 to a C1? B2 to C1 is quite a big gap. I think it's always a good idea to follow a course. If there's a C1 course that you can follow that will take you up to that level, that's helpful. Because what's really important is that you're studying regularly on a daily basis, if possible, but regularly over months and months and months, because it's a big leap, right? B2 to C1 is huge. C1 to C2.
So I need a plan?
You need a plan. You need a study plan, ideally a course or a teacher. And the mindset that I'm going to study regularly for months and months and months.
Okay, I got you. And the
Yeah.
second question?
And the second question,
What was it?
my mind's drawn a blank. What was this?
That's okay. That's about like missing or lacking like a vocabulary.
Lack of vocabulary. Yes. Yeah.
I was like talking continuously and suddenly just I stopped.
Yeah.
I know I want to like to say like that vocab or whatever, is it like an idioms or expressions, but I just know it in my language, but in English, no, maybe I don't know why.
Yeah.
How can we like, I get it.
I think at your level, I would focus on what we call passive vocabulary. Again, I guess for teachers, they know there's two kinds of vocabulary. There's active vocabulary, passive vocabulary. Your active vocabulary is the vocabulary you can already use well. Passive vocabulary are words that you can recognize, and if you hear it, you understand it, but you can't speak it out. And I would focus on moving or practicing the passive vocabulary you have and making it active. I wouldn't worry too much yet about new vocabulary, because sometimes students focus a lot on new vocabulary and they're learning so much vocabulary that it's going in and then it's going out because they're overwhelmed with too much vocabulary. Whereas if you focus on passive vocabulary that you already know a little bit or you've seen already, but you're not actively using, that's a good area to build up your active vocabulary. Does that make sense?
Yes, Mohammed. So does that answer your question? Supposedly, yes.
It's a bit of a technical answer, wasn't it? I'm afraid.
Yeah, it was really sure. Yeah, thanks for that. But I'm like, if you're gonna just to mention how can we use it, like if like I acquired some of vocab, nothing else.
Oh yeah, practice. I mean, use the juggle technique I mentioned before. Practice making sentences in different tenses, and make sure the sentences are about you. Often we learn vocabulary with these strange dictionary sentences that have no connection to your life. Make your sentences that you're making up in your practice relevant to your life, because you'll remember them better.
Thanks a bunch for that. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. So we just have some questions in the chat box. So somebody's asking about your course. Is it about just speaking or about 4 skills?
Okay, my course, so on the Keith Speaking Academy is the website. It's keithspeakingacademy.com. I only have speaking courses that I've created. So my courses are for speaking only. That said, there are 2 teachers who have courses on my website. One of them, you know, Eli, he has a writing course, is on my website. And the other one, Fiona, has a reading course. It's an academic reading course on my website. They are both fantastic courses. We've collaborated in the design and setting up of the course, but they are delivered by those teachers. All the videos are them, not me. So you can get access to those courses on the website, but my courses are only speaking. That's my specialization.
Okay, so let's go to other questions. We also have, let's see, how much does it cost? I'm not sure, but you can
course.
Yeah, I guess the course. So you can check the website, or if you want to say.
Yeah, there are different courses. There are different speaking courses. There's a course at 2 of the courses are around $30 US, and the main course is $87 US.
Yeah. Okay. So I can't see other questions. So if you have any question, please just type it in the chat box, because I'm not sure. Yeah, people say I have many passive vocabulary, so we all have that.
Yeah, and a lot of people talking about being stuck at B2, how to move up from B2.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Very, very, it's difficult because it takes a long time to make a bit of progress, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah. Okay. So any other questions? Yeah. Reliable websites for speaking and listening. I guess Keith mentioned some.
for speaking, the Keith Speaking Academy.
Yeah, sure.
For listening, I did. I don't know if I put them all up there, but I can put them in again. There was the listening, the BBC and the Culips are both good. Those are the two that come to mind for listening. Very, very good.
Okay.
Sharing my Facebook page. I don't know if I can find my Facebook page. You can.
Yeah, yes, sure. And I will also share it on Facebook, but you can share it here on Zoom.
Yep, if I can.
Okay, so any other questions? If you have any question, please don't hesitate. Okay, so Amal and Ahmed, do you have other questions, or you just forgot to lower your hands?
Yeah, actually, I have a question. Hello,
Yeah, yes,
Keith.
please.
Hello, Keith.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Great.
I'm so glad. I can't believe that I'm speaking to you actually. Yeah. My question is like that. How can I boost my speaking? How can I boost my confidence while speaking in English?
How can you boost your speaking and your confidence?
Yeah, yes, because when people criticize my speaking, I just feel less motivated and I feel disappointed. As a result, I just quit learning.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, if people are criticizing your speaking, stay away from those people. That's the first thing. The second, if they are giving you feedback, so criticism or feedback or correction is very, very good, right? Take it as positive. If they're correcting you, take it as a positive, and that helps you learn. I think confidence comes from having small challenges and succeeding in the challenge. So if you can set yourself small challenges with your language, then that can help. I mean, for example, if you could speak to different people, if you like today, if you could come out and speak in front of other people, that's a small challenge, boosts your confidence. If, as I mentioned before, if you're always practicing with the same person, you get a bit too comfortable. If you can practice with different people, finding different students or speaking partners, that will boost your confidence because you're having to get out of your comfort zone each time you speak to a different person. So I think it's small challenges that you try and succeed at doing or getting the support to succeed to help get yourself more confident. I think it's great if you're a member of the Norhan's group and you're getting involved in this kind of activity, you're already halfway there. That's great.
Actually, not yet, but I have other students from my course.
Right.
Okay, so I would like to ask you a question. So is it the first time to go live on Facebook?
For me?
Yeah. Because
No.
people say you are live on YouTube all the time, but not Facebook.
No, that's absolutely not true. Every time I go live on YouTube, I go live on Facebook at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So all of my live streams go straight to my Facebook page and Facebook group as well. I'm trying to get my Facebook page. I can't get it.
Okay, so I will just send it.
Can you send it?
Let me see. Yeah, just a second.
It's not loading and I don't know why. See if I can find it again. Let me try.
Give me a second. I'm just
I'm also
trying to get it. Yeah.
It's going to the profile every time. You've got it. Okay.
Yeah, I got it here.
So when I go live,
here it is.
Right, that's what I was getting. Yeah, when I go live on YouTube on the first Thursday of every month, it goes automatically to Facebook, that Facebook page and the Facebook group as well.
Yeah.
And you can watch it there. So I actually began my online English teaching doing Facebook Lives. I had very, very like groups of, not groups, but maybe 3 or 4 people watching when I began, because nobody knew me. And I did Facebook Live like every week for months, and just had like 4 or 5 people for like months at the start. It was great
When
fun.
was that?
That was 2018.
Oh, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
4 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. For months and months. And I just thought, what? Only 3 or 4 people.
Wow. And now lots of people know you, mashallah.
Things have got bigger. Yes. Yes, indeed.
Okay. So
Great.
I guess we're done with questions.
Great.
So do you have any other questions, guys? Okay. Lots of fans for your YouTube channel and the course.
Yeah. If not, feel free to just contact me on the Facebook page. You can message me there, and we can get in touch there if you have any other questions.
Okay, so thank you so much, Keith. Really, I can't believe like what they said. I can't believe that I have you today, and I'm really happy. I'm super excited, and also other people. And of course, we didn't have all of your fans here, but the live is recorded. You can just watch it anytime. And some people are joining even now, but we are done. Okay.
Dear. Well, listen, thank you so much, for letting me come on here and being on the English Gamer. Norhan, it's fantastic. And to everybody for watching and all your questions. And, lots of encouragement. I mean, listening to the level of English of you guys in Egypt is great. I think you're doing a great job, and keep going, keep practicing, stay motivated.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Okay. And take care. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.